Nicole's View. Say it with me, y'all. Nicole's View. That's right, because this is how she do it.
Good afternoon and welcome to a very special edition of the NMPA's Fire broadcast. It's been almost 2.5 years since comedian Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison, many say unjustly. Today we're going to talk to the person one of the people who know him best. Obviously, Mrs. Cosby knows him the best, but another person who knows him really well, his crisis manager and publicist, Andrew Wyatt. Good afternoon, Andrew. Always good to see you.
Good afternoon, Stacy. Thanks for having me. Great to see you, man. I hope that everybody within NMPA and your family are safe and healthy. I know we're still dealing with COVID, but it's great to be on. It's always great to do your show.
It's always great to see you, Andrew. And let's talk a little bit about it's Black History Month, but Mr. Cosby has a different term for Black History Month. Why don't you share that with us?
Well, he calls it the month of our people, Black people. So and look, it's always he always loved when Black History Month come around because he doesn't like to recognize the normal people that people recognize as far as MLK. He tries to find unique people who young kids and young people, even adults who probably have never heard of. So but this Black History Month, what he wanted to do is use it as a platform to talk about the criminal justice system and the injustice of Black men in prison reform, because that was a key component during the presidential election. Prison reform, unjust conviction. So, and that's what he wants to use this Black History Month to highlight other people who are, who might be in prison unjustly because of new evidence being found, and they might need a new case. So that's what he wants to use this Black History Month for.
Yeah, and let's go back a minute just so people understand. This is not a new thing for Bill Cosby to be concerned about those unjustly convicted and serving time. People might say, well, he feels he's unjustly convicted and serving time. Now he's taking up this cause. He's always taken up this cause, Andrew, if I'm correct.
You're correct. The prison that he's in is called SCI Phoenix, but what's so interesting, it's a new prison. The old prison was Graterford. But back in 1970, Mr. Cosby did a documentary inside Graterford Prison, met with a number of his friends because he has always saw how the judicial system has been unfair to Black men and women. So, the fact that he is at Graterford Prison, just a new name, but it's the same prison, same personnel, same inmates who have been there for 30 plus years or longer, that he's a resident at this facility now, and he's now on the inside. And he said, look, Mrs. Cosby might not like me saying this, but I think God had a purpose for me to be here. This is the place where I needed to be because the Black men that I needed to reach, they're right here. We're here together.
Yeah, and he's become very helpful from what we understand with a program called Man Up at the SCI Phoenix, where he's been helping the young men and older men there to be better men. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program, Andrew?
Well, the Man Up program, it's a program that was created and started and founded by an inmate who has now been in prison. I think he went in when he was 21 years old. He's 57 now. His name is Anthony Benny Due Sutton. And he founded the Man Up program, an organization to encourage Black men and have an outlet for Black men to address how they're feeling, how they're dealing with being incarcerated, and things that they want to be able to do, and as an influence and a role model in prison. So when they do get out, also they could be great fathers, great community leaders. So Mr. Cosby decided to participate. He's not a member in Man Up. And Benny made this request of him when he entered SCI Phoenix, and he obliged his request. And he feels that this is an opportunity for him to reach these men. And what he does, he sits with Benny every Thursday before COVID. Now they're not meeting. He would sit with Benny every Thursday, and they would come up with the music, the intro music. He created a television show out of Man Up. And it was inspirational. Various congressional leaders would come in, state legislatures. Larry Krasner, the district attorney of Philadelphia, he came and saw it and witnessed it for himself. And it was always interactive. And he would give this speech about men being better fathers, better role models. And what's so interesting, one young man who did 26 years in prison, he's free now. He was a member of Man Up. And he called me and got in touch with me last year. His name is Unique, and he goes by the name Unique. And he said, man, what Bill Cosby did for my life, Andrew, he said, now I am putting his words to action, and I am going back into my old community, and I'm being a positive figure in my old community. So it's a beautiful thing when you see the impact and how he's able to use his name, his influence, and his statue to make these men think about their actions and think about the things that they did to get them in prison.
Yeah, and Andrew, it's so interesting because we got a chance, and thanks to you, got a chance to talk to Mr. Sutton this past week, and he was very passionate about how impactful Mr. Cosby was, and he made it clear it wasn't, obviously when people saw Mr. Cosby, his celebrity, of course, was there, but Mr. Sutton made it clear that it was nothing about his celebrity. In fact, Mr. Sutton said he was surprised because of his celebrity that he decided to participate in a program to help them with a program like this.
Well, it was interesting when Mr. Cosby, he sat down with me 6 months before he was sentenced, and he was lying on his sofa at his Elkins Park home in Montgomery County, PA, and he discussed how he was preparing himself because he knew he was going to do time. He said, this judge hates me. He's going to sentence me. And he said, so I have to prepare mentally how I'm going to go in the iron box. And it was almost like preparing for a role. And he said, Andrew, I'm not eating the same foods anymore. I am giving up certain sweets. I'm giving up breads. I'm giving up these things to prepare. He said, and also, I have to give up who Bill Cosby is on the outside as a free man, the celebrity part of Bill Cosby, because I have to humble myself because I'm going into a facility with men from various walks of life, various backgrounds, who have been incarcerated either for a year and some for a lifetime, and some on death row. And it was just interesting to see how he morphed from actor, comedian, philanthropist Bill Cosby, educator Bill Cosby, to being just a normal guy, and how he prepared himself, and he prepared himself mentally and physically, and his eating habits changed to get him geared up for this test of a lifetime. This is definitely a test of a lifetime.
Yeah, what I always found, and so many things I found interesting in with Mr. Cosby. I remember the very last conversation that you facilitated with him and I before he was sentenced, and this was sentencing day, and that morning, and it was so interesting because it showed you that he was very, very concerned not just about himself, but so many others. And you and I and Mr. Cosby have previously discussed a situation, a family matter that was going on and with me. Right. And that morning he called. Right. And I'm saying to him, I said, don't you have an appointment with Judge O'Neill? And, right. And he said, well, he's going to have to wait. He says, I want to know how things are going. Mm-hmm. but in talking to Mr. Sutton, I got that same vibe from Mr. Sutton that it's not about Bill Cosby. Doesn't make it about Bill Cosby. It's about everyone else. And so when you signed on with Mr. Cosby some years ago, what was your initial impression? And has that initial impression been fulfilled?
It it hasn't been fulfilled because it's not over yet. So it's still going. And has it been joyful? Yes, it has. When I met Mr. Cosby, it was interesting. All of these people called me up wanting to get to Bill Cosby. I represented the National SCLC, Miles College, the former mayor of Birmingham, William Bell, a host of other people wanted to get to Bill Cosby. And I told them I could, and I had to go through 30 people. I didn't know how. But finally, I got in touch with him after going through all of these people, and he just called me. It was very shocking. And he said, "Hey," and you know that just I was like, "Who is this?" He was like, "Bill Cosby. You're trying to. Why are you looking for me?" And that's how. I told him everything that the people have reached out to me for. He said, "I'll do it." And then when he landed into Birmingham in February of 2010, I was sitting at the fish market and with the leaders of the National SCLC. And he called me. He said, "Hey, I'm in your town. Come and see me." So I told the people, I said, "Hey, this is Bill Cosby." I said, "Hey, sir, would you like something to eat?" He said, "No, that's mighty nice of you." And when I went to see him, he had a little sight then. And he was walking around and he said, "Man, I got interviews with the governor. I got a meet and greet with him." All these people he named, radio personalities. And he said, "I need to get in touch with them, but everybody in my California office is closed now. It's Friday, it's closed." I said, "Well, I know how to get in touch with them." He said, "That machine," and he talked about my cell phone because he's never owned one.
Right.
"You know how to, who are you?" And I got in touch with everyone. And the joke was always from Dick Gregory, the late Dick Gregory. He said, "How old were you when you met Bill Cosby and started with him?" I said, "I was 37. He said, "What year you was born?" I said, 73. And he said, how old was Bill Cosby? He said, 73. He said, "Look, N-word, the numbers don't lie." And so he was meant to be. And Mr. Cosby, I was working with, had a young lady who was working with me on some projects. And there was a tornado that hit here in Pratt City. And it tore down this pastor's church, Tommy Lewis, who's part of the Rainbow Coalition with Jesse Jackson, Bethel Baptist Church. And Mr. Cosby, Obama went to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where the University of Alabama is located. But he didn't come to Birmingham, where the depressed Black area got hit the hardest, more destruction, more deaths. And Mayor Bill called me up and said, "Look, I would love for Bill Cosby to come in a day early. I know he's going to be the commencement speaker at Miles College that Saturday." And I said, "Okay, I'll ask him." He said, "Sure, I'll come in a day early." He flew in on his private plane. He said, "Find CNN and get them to walk with me." Well, the young lady, long story, was working with me. It was something that Mr. Cosby felt. I'll never forget. And we didn't know each other well. They had only been working, doing stuff together for maybe months then. And after he had done the commencement speaking on Miles that Saturday, he walked Pratt City in Birmingham, the devastated areas that Friday. That Monday, he calls me at 5 a.m. And it was 6 a.m. his time, Eastern, to 5 my time. And he said, "Hey, I had a dream about you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I had a dream." He said, "I smell gunpowder." And he said, "If you don't get rid of that woman, man, you're going to end up like Ennis. You're going to be dead."
Wow. Wow. That's a powerful thing.
And then, 2 weeks later, things did happen where it was a family member of hers that was falling out, and it could have been a murderous situation. But he called it, and that's been our relationship. So that's why I say, as they always say, the promise has not been fulfilled. It has not been fulfilled. The fulfillment will come when he's vindicated, but the true fulfillment will come, and it will go down in history and written in the history books when one of us leaves this earth, and that's when the fulfillment will happen.
Yeah, well, we're talking with Andrew Wyatt, the longtime crisis manager, publicist, and everything else for Mr. Cosby. Andrew, let's take some of our viewer questions. Every time you come on, they line up, Andrew. So I don't want to. I don't want to leave them out. We'll start with Dante Salters, I should say. I'm sorry, Dante. He says, "Will you be able to present your side of the allegations in your documentary?"
Yes, that's in the works. We started shooting two and a half years ago. We have a number of wonderful documentarians. We don't want to say who the production companies are right now and who's going to be the vehicle for the docuseries. But it's going to be a 5-part series, and we are shooting, and we have a wonderful documentarian. I can't mention her name, Michelle Major, and Mike and Baird, Alan Miller, and Sam Pollard. So it's going to be a wonderful docu-series about, the life and legacy of Mr. Cosby, where we're going to address everything, a 5-part series. And it's important for people to know the truth. And, Mr. Cosby, Stacy, right now, today, I talked to him this morning. He wants to talk so bad, he wanted to, he said, well, don't tell Mrs. Cosby, maybe I could try to call back and you could get me on. After I always telling him, I said, look, we're waiting for this ruling to come down, and it's best that you remain solid right now and but he wants to tell his side, and he wants to talk about the truth and facts.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the other question there, and I didn't ask, he asked, did Mr. Cosby know Francis Cress Welsing personally?
I think so. He knew a lot of people personally, from James Baldwin. They spent every birthday of James Baldwin, they would go to the south of France in Nice. That's where James moved to, and their daughters, and they all flew out there and they spent the birthdays with him. And they would go to Mr. Cosby's favorite restaurant that sits on the Mediterranean, and they're still good friends, a family of ours. It's called Bacon, and it's been in existence for 50 years. So yeah, Mr. Cosby is. I tell everybody, I said, when you shake Bill Cosby's hand, or you touch him, you're in his presence, you're getting to feel the hand that shook MLK, Malcolm X, and some of the greatest leaders that we read about in our time or in history. So that's the beauty of Bill Cosby.
Yeah, and you tell Michelle Major to keep my part in that documentary too.
I think your part is going to always stay. Your part, you and Dr. Chambers, I have to always say this, and I'm not saying this because you have me on your show. If you did not have me on your show, I would be consistent. And our relationship was rocky from the very beginning of the allegations. I don't mind people talking about, telling that story. I talk about it in a book that I'm working on right now. But you guys have been consistent with just putting the truth and facts out. No special favors, just the facts. And
here's the deal with that too, Andrew. You're right. You guys have never asked for any special favors. Mr. Cosby never asked for any special favors. But the thing with that was, when we decided to cover the trial, we decided for a lot of reasons, including the fact that, of course, Bill Cosby is an African-American, an American icon, a global icon. And we heard so much. And so I went there, like many others, thinking, okay, well, where there's smoke, there must be fire.
Right. And
as we went through that first trial, well, even before we got to the first trial, Andrew, you mentioned Allegheny County down in Pittsburgh, the shenanigans that was going on with the jury and the jury selection. You knew right then that, wait a minute, this is not everything that, the mainstream media told us it was. And then we heard the evidence. And here's the thing that always really got me, Andrew. You guys in the first trial did not put on a defense, yet there was a hung jury. And at one point, before the judge sent them back, they were 12-0 in favor of acquittal.
Correct.
And this was without putting on evidence. Now, the second trial, you did put on evidence, but the point of this is that as you watch for yourself and not be fed what the media gave you, as you sat there and watched, you understood that, wow, this guy didn't do it. And then you realize that Andrea Constant, this was a relationship. This was, somebody seeing someone outside of marriage, which is wrong, but it wasn't a crime. Alexander Williams, I want to bring up Alexander's question. I'm probably the only one viewing, but Dr. Cosby's legacy should not be erased or tarnished by the constant lies and vilification of him. A question that Alexander asks is, what is the status of the appeal? We know that the Supreme Court is now listening or debating it. There was a great, Andrew, back in December 1st, Jennifer Bonjean, your lawyer, did an outstanding job in front of the state Supreme Court there. And so we are waiting to hear.
Look, it can happen any day now. We're all on standby. One thing we know, we're hoping they will vacate his conviction and say that he had immunity, which he did. He should have never been there. However, if that doesn't happen, we're asking them we're hoping that they warrant him a new trial. They say that 404B law is a murky law and it was abused by Kevin Steele, the district attorney. Our other issue we know, if he's granted a new trial, we would get the same trial judge and the district attorney, and this same judge would have to also remand Mr. Cosby bail. Well, he already had set bail at $1 million, but because this judge would be so angry if it got overturned and a new trial is set, that he would try to make the bail so much higher. He can say $50 million or $100 million. They can't do that. So we're just waiting, Stacy, and we're hopeful, we're prayerful. The support and the beauty of what we saw, and it just shows you how the Creator works, the Most High works. COVID gave us an opportunity for people to stand still, and because of the courts not being open to the public.
Yep.
And it was being in the oral arguments were done Tuesday, December 1st, virtually, live on YouTube. The mass amount of people who got to see and hear the truth, that was the turnaround. That's what mainstream media denied from the public and the masses. Yep. They used social media, gave you the sound bites to get a conviction. And but yeah, we're very hopeful, we're prayerful, and we feel good about it. We, like I said, this is not a victory party. We're not saying that there's a victory. We've seen the smoke and mirrors before. It could be smoke and mirrors, we don't know. But we're just hopeful and we're prayerful that he will be vindicated in some way or another.
Yeah, and Jalil 1814 says, how is Dr. Cosby's health? Alexander, and I'll ask this question too, because it goes along, somewhat goes along with that. How is Mrs. Cosby doing, going through this whole ordeal? This is Alexander Williams, along with his older or other surviving children.
Well, look, you interviewed Mrs. Cosby last year, and you can replay that interview. Mrs. Cosby is strong. Mrs. Cosby runs the show. We talk at least 5-6 times a day. And we always end in the middle of the night. Strategy, this, I'm going on a show, things to focus on, what we want to put out here, the information. Mrs. Cosby is just a strong Black woman. Just 3 weeks ago, they celebrated 57 years of marriage. She has been his business manager for 55 years. So, she's powerful, she's strong, and she's what you look for as the matriarch of Black women, of all our Black women. And I wish all our Black women could aspire to have that type of strength and stand by someone that they really care about, but also not become a victim just to become a celebrity or a name overnight, or just to get money out of a human being. So that's what Mrs. Cosby stands for. Mr. Cosby, as far as health goes, 2 years ago, he had 90% blockage. Carotid arteries on the right and left side due to plaque buildup. Those were cleaned out. He's doing well. His blood pressure is stable. He is blind, 100% blind due to glaucoma. Right now, COVID has resurged in the prison. I think they've had in the past 3 weeks 10 correctional officers to pass away. And I was told that by Anthony Sutton that 2 inmates one had done 45 years and the other one 47 years. They were scheduled to be released. They got parole, scheduled to be released this week, but last week they died of COVID.
Wow, that is awful. My goodness. Yeah. Andrew, a question that always seems to come up, and Alexander Williams is asking this question too. Good question, Alexander. Have any Black celebrities reached out to support Dr. Cosby?
Yes. They've reached out to support, but they're afraid. I could definitely tell you Felicia Rashad, Debbie Allen, Keisha Knight Pulliam, Malcolm Jamal Warner, various people, the cast members of the show have reached out. They reach out constantly to check on him. Friends, various people, but a lot of people. Congresswoman Maxine Waters always reaches out to check on him. But people are fearful. It was amazing how many people ran away, and they would call me and say, "Andrew, I'm sorry, I can't. We don't know who's doing this." And for someone to be able to take down Bill Cosby, there's a machine behind this. And everybody will always tell me there's a liberal machine behind this, because the liberals felt that Mr. Cosby was too much of a voice and he had become too powerful. So they had to get rid of him. They could not let him leave this earth because it became generational, where every child in America would look at him as America's dad. That's something that they did not want to happen. Sinbad, we know he had a stroke, but Mr. Cosby checks on him regularly through me. It's a lot of people who call, but they're afraid, and it's unfortunate that they're afraid.
Yeah, it's amazing, Andrew. We've documented that the Cosbys, Mr. and Mrs. Cosby, have given so much to so many. It reminds me of that line back in Let's Do It Again. Never have so much, so many, or so little, or whatever he said, did so much for so many. But have these people and institutions, Andrew, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, cash wise, but otherwise as well, have done for folks. Have any of those major players, the institutions, the colleges, the politicians, the business people, have any of those reached out?
No, it's unfortunate. They gave a little bit over $100 million away to HBCUs and PWIs, public white institutions. I'm talking about major public white institutions in America, from the UPenn, you name it, Temple, all types of institutions. And you look at the millions of dollars they gave to the faith-based organizations, and all of these people walked away. They walked away from him. They turned their backs on the Cosby family. I had a pastor I met with in New York. I won't mention his name. 3 years ago, of a prominent church. He sat down with me for lunch, and the bill ended up becoming like a $500 tab I paid for. And towards the end of the lunch, he said, "Look, I would like to get out here and help this man, but I get money from Jewish people."
Wow.
And he said, I can't get out here. Look at Reverend Sharpton. When Reverend Sharpton came out and represented Tawana Brawley in New York, Bill Cosby and Mike Tyson came to his aid.
Yeah.
He didn't come to Bill Cosby's aid. Reverend Jackson has been vocal as of just last year, but he was on the sidelines. Reverend Jackson, and we, my prayers go to him and his family, because I know he's in the hospital right now. But Reverend Jackson stated to me, he said, "Well, we didn't know who was doing this." But
so Andrew, it was never a question from all these people, never a question that they didn't want to get involved because they thought he was guilty. They didn't want to get involved. It sounds like they felt like he was innocent, but they was afraid of who was, in their words, framing.
They didn't know the machine that was behind it, and that was always the problem. They wanted to get involved, and they contacted me. They just didn't know the machine behind it. Look, Minister Farrakhan had me at his home with the help of Mark Stevens, Shaquille O'Neal's agent, and we're all fraternity brothers, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, but had me at his home 2 years ago. He stood in support of Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby, Kenny Gamble and Huff called Bill Cosby to help finance the buses for the Million Man March. And Minister Farrakhan, 3 hours in his home, at his table in Chicago, he said to me, he said, "I don't want a dime from Brother Bill." He said, "Brother Bill, what he has done for America and the Nation of Islam, but for America, we will stand behind him." And he said, "We will make sure he's protected in that prison." He stood behind his words. Look, these brothers, I'm not talking about the Hebrew Israelites, the radical ones who you see on the corners with swords and cursing people out. Not those people, but I'm talking about these brothers out of Brooklyn, Shema Israel, Prince Nat, second in command, Nahasi, his father, they have been standing behind Bill Cosby, the Hebrew Israelite congregation, since the inception, when the Christian community walked away from him, when the Jewish community walked away from him. And this family, who's a Hebrew Israelite family out of Philadelphia, Verita and Malcolm Bonner, their daughter Dina, and another sister, they have been, putting out messages of support. Those are the people who have not ran away, those type of faith-based organizations. But the other ones, man, they will always say to me, Stacy, we are afraid. Now you're thinking about a church, and you're thinking about the role that the so-called church and the Christians play in America from civil rights. All of a sudden you're afraid. It's mind-boggling how, when we see white people come after black people and destroy them and take them down, how they can silence us, and we end up back on the plantation. Like, yes, master, no master. We're back on the plantation. It's interesting. Very.
Andrew, I know we're out of time. I will actually just one last question though. You said early on about Mr. Cosby when it came to the Man Up program, doing a documentary. Is he planning, if all goes well, Mr. Cosby, we know he's 83 years old. Is he planning to go back on the stage?
Yeah, that's the whole plan, to go back on tour. We have an amazing tour I've already put together, planned. He is being creative. He calls every morning. He dictates his new creative ideas for a new TV show that he wants to do. But yeah, we already have a comedy tour already planned, and it's going to be an amazing comedy tour. And I can't divulge where we're gonna, how it's going to work, but I put it together. I came up with the whole formula. Look, I'm the executive producer of it. I'm the executive producer of a new show he's doing, and that he's named me to do. Look, Mr. Cosby and what he wants to do now, like for Anthony Benedict Sutton, he said, look, I'm not proclaiming that this man is innocent. I cannot read his case. I'm blind. However, he had me to go find attorneys to help look at this guy's case and his post-conviction relief. So those are the things that he wants to do. But I'm telling you, 83 years old, he's staying healthy. He gets tested every day for COVID. He will not be taking a shot. He doesn't feel comfortable doing that at his age. But look, Stacy, a tour is on the horizon, and it's going to be one of the most amazing tours that you can ever imagine. And the material that he has developed, because he's blind, so that's why he calls it in to dictate. The material is so funny. And when I think America is going to be back up and running very soon. And I think once this gets overturned, I feel good that I hope and pray that the PA Supreme Court, they will not be weighed by old Q scores or public sentiment, forcing them not to do the right thing. They will write the opinions to say that this man his conviction deserves to be vacated and a new trial, or warrant him a new trial. But when he gets out, it's going to be the most amazing tour. And you're going to see the greatest of all time. He is truly the greatest of all time. As they say, the GOAT. So the Chappelle, the Kevin Harts, the Faison Loves, the Chris Rocks of the world, the Jerry Seinfeld. Just stay tuned and watch out.
Well, nobody represents their client better than Andrew Wyatt does Bill Cosby, and it's never enough time, Andrew. We really appreciate you. You got to come back. We know that we are looking forward to that Supreme Court decision, and when that decision comes down, we hope to not only have you, but Mr. Cosby himself. So we thank you so much.
Look, my message I'm sending mainstream media, Stacy, and I'm deliberate with my words, very deliberate. Only a handful of them stood by us. Only a handful of them. But the black media, from you, Frankie Darshell, to Nicole Lewis, to all of these mental speak, LaTanya Davidson, the list goes on and on and on. And I have to give respect to Lindsay Davis. And Lindsay has been fair and ethical with us, and we've done a lot with her. But look, we are coming to our people. And
well, Nicole, I will say Nicole has been amazing. I follow Nicole. She's amazing. But Andrew, we got to wrap. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Join us again tomorrow morning, actually, for Let It Be Known, the breaking news of the morning. Everybody stay safe, wear a mask, and social distance. We'll see you then.
Thank you.